Hey everyone, all right, we're cooking with gas now. Hey everyone, it's Catherine at Resin Obsession. So glad you could join me here today. I'm live on Facebook. Hey Facebook. I'm live on Instagram. Hey Instagram. So I'm so glad you guys could join me today. We're going to be talking bubbles in resin, right? Like nemesis of everyone. I sent out a little email to my peeps a couple of weeks ago, and I'm like, hey, you know, I have forgotten what it's like to be a beginner and what's your number one problem. And a bunch of you replied with bubbles. Like that was the overwhelming response. So I'm here today. I'm going to show you a few of my favorite tricks to avoid bubbles in resin, to take care of bubbles once you got them in resin, and hopefully we'll keep you out of resin bubble trouble for the next little bit at least. So while I'm waiting for a few more people to join on, just a couple of things. I am with you until 12:45 p.m. Eastern, so that's like 29 more minutes. I will do my best to watch for questions and that kind of thing. I do know, though, that it's hard for me to work on the resin and pay attention to the screen. So if you're on Facebook and I don't get to your question, no worries, just type it in and I'll get to it this afternoon when I'm going through questions. If you're on Instagram and I don't get to your question, then by all means, please private message me, or you can send an email to info@resinobsession.com and somebody on the team will help you out. So while I'm waiting maybe a minute or two more for people to join in, I want to start off with something funny, right? So for those of you who don't know me very well, I'm kind of crazy about my cats. So I thought we could start off today's live demo with a book I gave my kids a couple of weeks ago, and it is hysterical. For those of you who have cats, you'll totally get this. Anyway, so I'm going to read a little poem. The book is called I Could Pee on This and Other Poems by Cats. Okay, so I've got just a little quick one to get us started. I love this. Work, Chapter 2. They say there are 24 hours in a day, but I'm only up for 3 of them, and 2 I consider overtime. Okay, hand up if that's your cat. So, all right. Okay, everyone. I got a lot to go over today. I'm expecting a lot of questions, so let me get set up. I'm going to have to turn cameras around. You might want to look away from the screen for a minute. I don't want to make anybody motion sick by moving this around, okay? So bear with me a minute, and we're going to get this done, okay? Pretty excited about this. In the meantime, where is everyone today? Like, where are you guys from? Tell me, quickly where you're from, and this should be fun, right? Okay, so let's do this. Okay, so everybody gets a view of my ceiling for a minute. There we go. All right, so we got Facebook is taken care of. Okay, Instagram, you ready? I got to take you off the stand. I'm trying to do this so nobody gets sick. All right, and then we're going to put you, right, Instagram, right there you go. Perfect, right? Perfect. Let me get you. All right, let me move this stand out of the way. All right, and let's get started. Oh, and I also forgot to mention, stay till the end. I've got a little something special to share with you. For those of you that stay till the end, I think you guys are going to be pretty excited about it, okay? So hang tight and let's get started. Okay, so looks like we got some people all the way from Canada, Washington State. I see someone from Sri Lanka. I see India. Oh my gosh, I know I got an email or I got a message earlier from someone in Australia who's going to get up early to watch this. And I'm like, oh goodness gracious, please get some coffee ahead of time. Okay, so before we get started, just a few safety things. I am going to be wearing gloves for this. Please, I would highly encourage you to wear gloves. I do have a protective surface. I am working in my personal kitchen today, so heaven forbid I don't want any resin there. I've got good ventilation here where I'm working. That's also essential as well. And just, anything that I'm using here for resin, I'm also dedicating to resin, i.e. if you're going to grab something from the kitchen, like I'll show you, I've got a plastic container here. Once you've grabbed it for your resin studio, please dedicate it for that. Don't try and reuse it again for food or cooking purposes. Okay, great. So the first thing I will tell you to avoid bubbles in your resin, which is something I can't show you, but that is you need to have a warm room to cast your resin in. And I realize this time of year, if you're in the northern hemisphere, that can be a little difficult and expensive to run the heat all the time. But resin likes an ambient temperature of 70 to 75 degrees Fahrenheit for curing. So if it's a little impractical to heat your whole house or apartment or that kind of thing, You could try, say, a bathroom. You could try working in a closet with a space heater, something like that, to help generate enough warmth in that temperature, or sorry, enough warmth in that room during the entire curing time. If that isn't feasible as well, when I get done here on our Facebook feed, I will post a link to a tutorial that one of our resinistas, Kate Leadham, did. Kate lives in Western Canada where it's cool a lot of the year. And so she shows how she has created a resin hot box. And she uses trays like you would find in an office supply store. She puts it in a box, uses some heating pads to help generate some heat. It's really pretty ingenious. So I will include a link for that. The other thing you can do as well is you can get a large cardboard box, a gooseneck lamp, and if you can still find them, get a large wattage incandescent light bulb. They generate a lot of heat. You can put that bulb in the lamp inside the cardboard box, plug it in, and that will create a lot of heat within the box to help you keep a warmer temperature for your resin, okay? So that's number one. We've got to have a warm room to avoid bubbles. Okay, now the second thing, which is my thing that I like to do, is that I like to make sure my resin is warm. And here for today, just for display purposes, I'm going to show you the Resin Obsession Super Clear Resin when I pour it when it's unwarmed and when it is warm. So I'm going to go ahead and pour a little bit. This is just straight from my studio. Even though it's warm here today, you know, my bottles are still cold. Like it's going to be pushing 80 degrees here today. I don't have the heat on, I don't have the AC on, but the bottles are still kind of cool. So this is useful even if it's summertime. You can still warm your bottles up. You know, be careful that you don't overdo it. Yes, there is too much of a good thing. If your resin is too warm when you go to mix it, you will shorten your pot time. But I'm going to go ahead and just pour in a little bit of the resin part. The hardener component of our resin kits are fairly thin, fairly liquid, so I don't generally warm these up, only because I don't find it makes a difference. If you're using a hardener that's also kind of thick, warm that up as well. Okay, so I'm going to show you a little bit here. I'm going to go ahead and pour out the first 10 mLs here, and you can just kind of see what I'm talking about. So it's pretty syrupy, kind of thick, moving kind of slow. You know, it's taking a little while to kind of get it out. Right now, I'm looking at the side of the cup because I am going to try and measure this accurately so I can mix a batch and kind of show you guys some stuff. I'm using graduated mixing cups. Yes, I am that fussy. If you want your resin to know that your resin's going to cure as expected every time, you really need to be pretty precise with your measuring, especially when you're working with small volumes like this. And it's like, I need like one more drop. Okay, all right, so that's just the regular part A that's just been sitting out. Now, before I got on with you guys, I warmed up some water, you know, about 3 minutes in your microwave so that it's like hot, like you're doing it for tea. This is a bottle of resin that has been sitting in that warm water bath for about, you know, I don't know, 10 minutes or so, which is plenty. A small bottle like this, 5 minutes is probably fine. Notice that I do have it inside a plastic bag though. A couple reasons for that. Number one, you don't necessarily want to wash off your label. It's got your instructions, it's got your safety information. And secondly, you don't want water to get in your resin. So what I can do right now is I can just reach in, you know, grab my bottle, or not, and the bottle's still dry. That way I don't have to worry about water contaminating in the resin. So let me get rid of this for a sec. All right, so let me grab another cup, and I'm going to pour the warmed resin. And the bottle feels, it is much warmer I mean, it's not hot, it's not burning me, but it's you know, it's warm, you know, almost like you've been holding it in your hands for the last hour. And let's go ahead and pour 10 mLs of it again. So you can see it's much more thin. It pours much faster. And I can actually get a much better measurement on it just because it's flowing so much better. So right away, you can see there's a huge difference between the cold resin and the warm part A. So now let's measure a couple of parts of part B, and I'm gonna pour them in both just to kind of show you guys the difference in terms of bubbles and what you have to worry about. So the super clear resin mixes 2 parts A to 1 part B. So now I need my 1 part of B, which is the hardener. So not a whole lot here, but. All right, so there's our warm stuff. Let's go ahead and mix it into our cool stuff and you guys can see what I'm talking about. Okay. So right away you can see that it's a little more viscous. It's not, it will blend, but it's just a little more viscous and I'm having to work a little harder to get it to blend. Not a big deal, but it's just taking a little longer than what I would like. I will also go into my next tip, which is be very careful in mixing. And what I mean by that is you are not scrambling an egg. So I'm mixing deliberately here, but I'm also trying to keep my stir paddle in the cup on the bottom. You know, I'm going along the sides. I'm trying to be really careful. And it makes a huge difference. You do not want to, like this, especially when you're casting into molds. I know sometimes when you're casting large volumes of resin to, say, put on an artwork surface, that sometimes you have to get a little rough with it, shall we say, and you get bubbles. But look, you guys can already see, like I've introduced bubbles into it just by mixing really quickly. Be deliberate and give it a little, you know, just show your resin a little love. So I'm scraping carefully and all that, but you can see, like, if you really go crazy, like I've seen some people do, you really incorporate a lot of bubbles into this. And especially if you're like doing, like you're whisking it, like literally like you're doing an egg. Okay, so let's see. So I can show you there. We've got a few bubbles. I don't know how well you guys can see them. What I'm gonna do now is put the hardener into the warm resin. And this is blending much nicer. I'm not having to work as hard. It's blending a lot more smoothly. And I'm able to get it to mix much quicker. I'm really doing well. So you can see so far, we're getting, I mean, it's hardly any bubbles in it. Trying to show everybody here. I'm gonna go ahead and try and whisk it like I did this one to see, you know, just for comparison's sake, right? So let's assume I'm whisking it, I'm making eggs, we're doing all kinds of baking with resin. Not exactly, but you get my point here. So I'm really trying to incorporate some air into it. And so so I was able to get a few bubbles into it, but not as much as with the cold resin. So you can see, let me move this for a sec. So relatively speaking, I know it might be kind of hard for you guys to see. The cold resin has more micro bubbles in it than the warm stuff does. The cold resin is there on the left, the warm stuff is on the right. So just simply by warming up your components, even if you do make a mistake and go all crazy mixing it, you know, the warm stuff is a little more forgiving than the cold stuff is, okay? So far we've covered a good room temp, warm the resin, and stirring carefully. So let me adjust the phone so everybody can still see. Okay. All right. Okay. All right. So everybody's got some stuff. So we've talked about 3 things already. Now, some people will talk about now about letting their resin rest before they cast it. You know, I'm kind of indifferent on it. You know, in this case where I don't have a whole lot of bubbles, I go ahead and use it because I'm more worried about the pot time. If you have done a really bad job of mixing, or if you forgot to warm your resin up and you're like, oh my gosh, this stuff is full of bubbles, then yeah, you can let it rest for a little bit. Just be mindful of your pot time. You don't want to run out of, you know, you don't want to be casting your resin and all of a sudden be like, ah, crud, now it's starting to gel already. Okay. All right. So we've talked about those 3 things. Now, the next thing I will talk about is one of the things I like to do, which I did not do here today, is you can warm your molds in the oven. All right. So I'm not a physicist and I can't necessarily explain this in physics terms, but warm stuff meeting a cold surface can sometimes trap a bubble. But it's the surface tension thing. I'm not quite sure. Somebody smarter than I am probably can explain it. But you know, you've gone to all the trouble of warming your resin. You should warm your molds as well. This is a silicone mold. They'll do fine in a 150-degree oven. The plastic molds we sell will do fine as well. You know, once again, I would urge you that if it's since you're using it for resin, I would not use it in your household oven. But, you know, you could get like a little toaster oven at a yard sale or something like that. That would be perfect for this. If you don't have one of those, then use a handy dandy heat gun. Okay, I've got one of those here. It's a little loud. Okay, and just warm it up. Go over the surface so it's warm. You know, feels nice and warm. You know, warm it up again. You can flip it over if you want, but usually just the surface, the casting surface is fine. And that's a big help as well. All right. Okay, Instagram, your phone is, you know what, Instagram, hang tight. I'm just going to move this a sec so you don't fly away. There we go. Don't need my phone falling in the resin. Okay. So then one of the other tricks I like to try is if you're using powders, you can dust a little bit of powder into your mold, and that also helps to break the surface tension. I happen to have some Pearl-Ex powders here today. I'm going to do that with. Some people will talk about using baby powder as well. I don't have a lot of experience with that, but I'm just going to use a little bit of Pearl-Ex powders today, and that helps to break that surface tension. So we're going to make some colored stuff, and you're just going to put this in your mold. And the nice part about this too is that this is going to stay on this surface. So we don't really have to worry about dusting it off or anything like that, or it coming off once you pour in the resin. But this is just, you know, something else I like to do. I'm just using a paintbrush, a little bit of powder. And by the way, this is a mold we don't have listed yet, but I hope to have listed here this week. So I thought it might be kind of fun to get me thinking about the beach, right? It's almost time to go to the beach. Well, I guess it's always beach time in Florida, but almost time to swim is what I'm thinking. So I've got that. And I'm going to cast both resins. So let me pick another color. To kind of give you guys some perspective. I see some questions coming up. Thanks everyone for being patient. It's hard for me to pay attention to what I'm doing and answer questions. I will do my best to get to them as we're finishing up, or if you're on Facebook, I'll try and get to them a little later. And just a reminder, hang in there for a few more minutes and I've got some fun stuff to share with you. So this is our cold resin. I'm going to go ahead and pour it in here. Now, another little trick I like to do, here's our warm resin. Another little trick I like to do that works really well for either big molds or intricate molds, like if you're working with flower molds and there's a lot of like creases and that kind of thing, is to pick up your mold and rotate the resin in the mold. And if you do this with just a little tiny bit of resin, that also helps to break that surface tension. So hopefully you're releasing any bubbles. And then at that point is when I will also go over it with a heat gun. And what that does is, so hopefully it's broken the surface tension. So if you do have you see a few little bubbles, guess what? We put the heat gun on it. Like there's a bubble there. Come on, you little thing, you. And hopefully you'll pop. Oh, that's part of the mold. I was like, why is it not popping? Oh, because it's part of the mold, right? So that'll work as well. If you've got an intricate mold that's got a lot of folds and stuff, actually bend it like you're trying to demold it. And sometimes those trap bubbles then will come to the surface. So let me put a little bit more resin in here. And I see we've got a few more minutes left together. So I want to make sure I get everything covered and have a little time for questions. So we've put that in there. I'm going to put a little more in here. Now at this point, especially if you're a beginner, you're going to have some bubbles. It's okay. I mean, it's to be expected. It's just kind of how resin works sometimes. You can be totally careful and you're still going to get some bubbles. So at this point, you can use your heat gun to get out the bubbles. You can also use a barbecue lighter. I know some of you like using that. Just exercise caution. It's flame and fire, so please don't hurt yourself or anything like that. Not that you can't burn yourself with a heat gun. This end here does get very hot, so be careful. And you can also melt plastic molds with this. I have done that, unfortunately. So the last recommendation I have for you on getting rid of bubbles in resin is actually to make sure you choose the right resin for your project. And what I mean by that is there is no one size fits all resin, okay? So for example, the super clear resin has worked out pretty well here today, but it is a resin designed for molds. It's designed to mix in a thin viscosity to make bubbles release easier, all right? This is not a doming resin though, so I don't recommend this for artwork surfaces. You want to dome resin on pendants, this is not your resin. But for something like this, I think it works really well. The flip side of that being that the reason doming resins can dome is they mix thicker. So when you mix a doming resin and you try and use it in a mold, that sometimes can lead to more trapped bubbles because it's really thick. If it's a big open surface like this mold, you'll probably do okay because you've got plenty of surface area to get your bubbles out. Something like this is a bead mold, you're going to have a hard time getting all those bubbles out of this mold if it's a doming resin. It's just it's going to be difficult. I'm not going to lie. So it's not to say that you shouldn't try, but just maybe give a little pause, investigate the resin you're using, and really determine if that's really the right resin you should be using for your project. Okay, so we've got 6 more minutes together. I do have something I want to share with you before we hang up today. So let me go back through and look at a few of these questions and see if there's anything else I can help with you. Okay, so what about, Linda on Facebook wants to know, what about removing more bubbles after you've mixed? So Linda, you can try going over the top of your mixed resin with a heat gun, but at this point, it's going to be kind of hard because basically all your resin, your bubbles may need to rise up as far as from the bottom of the cup. So if you've got a big open surface, I would tell you to go ahead and cast it, especially if you're talking like an artwork surface. Getting a bunch of bubbles in the resin doesn't bother me at that point because you're going to spread it out on a surface. They've maybe got 1/8 of an inch to rise. And so it's not that far. Something like this where we don't have a big hole at the top for the bubbles to escape, or maybe it's a deep casting, then yeah, that's a little more worrisome. So you might even try, if you've mixed a big batch of resin and you've got a bunch of bubbles in it and oh my gosh, how am I gonna get this out? You might go ahead and split it up into smaller cups and try and put a heat gun to it and see if you can get bubbles out that way. Okay, so, all right, so, okay, Kimberly Creations on Instagram was wanting to know if there's a Facebook page where I can answer questions. Yes, we do. If you are on Instagram and you've got a few more questions and I didn't get to them today, please pop on over. It's facebook.com/your resin obsession. Okay. All right, let's see. I probably got time for like 2 more questions, and then we can, and then I've got something fun to kind of share with you guys. So I'm so glad that you've joined in with me today. I know you guys like it better when I do evening lives, and I would love to do more evening lives, but sadly my parental duties kind of get in the way. So I'm hoping if you guys are okay with me doing some midday stuff, I can do a few more of them. So, okay. So Carla's wanting to know if you can microwave a silicone mold. You know what, Carla, that is a really great question. I don't know. I have only ever done them in the oven. I'd be worried that you would get like hot spots in your mold or something like that. I will be honest with you, I don't really know. So, okay. All right, let's see if I can get one more question in, and we'll see then if I can't share some stuff with you guys. Okay, I'm looking for some stuff I can answer kind of quickly because I know everybody has a bunch of questions, so some are probably taking more. Okay. All right. So one question I see a lot is people are asking about what kind of resin you should use for your resin art projects. So because you're going to be working on a flat surface and you want the resin to go over the side, or will go over the side, I should say, you want to be using a doming resin. So that means a resin that mixes thick enough that it has the surface tension to stay flat on your pieces. We have a few of those in our store. We sell the Total Cast and Master Cast resins from Eli Chem. You can go directly to our store at shop.resinobsession.com, and there's shopping links on the left, and just go to the resin link and you should be able to find it there. So, okay. We have 3 minutes left, so let me throw this out there. And thanks to everyone for hanging around, and I'm hoping you will like this thing that I have to share with you. So let me make a couple of points right away, because I realize some of you are going to be watching this later. So I have a coupon code for you, okay? The coupon code is good for the next 50 customers that use it, or it automatically expires tomorrow night, February 8th, 2018 at 11:59 p.m. Eastern, okay? So everybody's got that. So if you're watching this later and the coupon code doesn't work for you, this might be why, okay? So it's good for the next 50 customers, or it automatically expires tomorrow night, February 8th, 2018, 11:59 p.m. So for the next day and a half, you can get 20% off any resin purchase at our store by going to shop.resinobsession.com and use the code BUBBLES20. Okay? BUBBLES20 will get you 20% off any resin purchase, no minimum, whatever you guys want. Good for the next 50 customers, or expires tomorrow night at 11:59. Okay? So I hope everyone can get a chance to maybe get a little shopping done. I certainly appreciate everyone joining me here today. I've had a lot of fun. If you guys have ideas of some other things you'd like me to show you, by all means, please, send us a message, send me an email, tweet, Facebook, whatever. I'd love to hear some other stuff. I'm glad I can help you. I know bubbles are horrible and we hate them, but hopefully I've given you a few tips here. One last tip before you go that I just realized because I didn't have it set up here exactly to show. If you guys are going to put something in resin, so like let's say I've got a little charm I want to put in the resin before I want to put in my mold or put in my bezel, dip it in your resin first, then put it in your mold or your bezel or whatever. And what that does, breaks the surface tension of your pieces, okay? Because sometimes you can, obviously you put it in your mold and then maybe you've trapped something under it, beside it, whatever, but dip it in your resin first. It breaks that surface tension, then put it in your mold or bezel, and that should help again with the bubbles. Okay, so thanks everyone for joining in. It is 12:45. I am going to head out of here. This will be saved to our Facebook page here in the next few minutes. It'll be on YouTube here in another day or two. Obviously, if you're on Instagram, you can see it replayed there for the next 24 hours. Thanks everyone for joining in. I hope everyone had a great time, and I hope to see you guys again soon.